all the time. This is 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM, New York.
46 degrees, clear skies at 7 o'clock. Good evening, I'm Lane Bajardi, and here's what's happening. NTSB says the fire truck that slammed into an Air France jet at LaGuardia was not equipped with a transponder, which could have triggered an early warning system. A jury in New Mexico finds meta platforms like Instagram and Facebook are harmful to the mental health of children and teenagers, saying executives prioritize profits over safety. Employees of a major Dunkin' and Taco Bell franchisee in the city will soon share in a major settlement of allegations they were abused by their bosses. Violence ramping up again in the Middle East as Iran and Israel trade volleys, missiles and drones in the air also aimed at Gulf states. Iran is at odds with Cardi B back in the Bronx today ahead of her shows at the Garden and the Rock. Sports, Knicks host the Pelicans, Nets out west to play the Warriors, Islanders host the Blackhawks, Devils skate in Dallas. AccuWeather says clear to partly cloudy tonight, low 38 in the city, closer to 30 in some far northern and western suburbs, some sun followed by clouds tomorrow, high 52. Winds News Time 7:01. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Greg Rice.
Now, you are getting a business on the east side of Manhattan, southbound Harlem River Drive, right at the RFK Bridge. You got a crash blocking a couple of lanes, and that'll back you up deep into the 130s. And then southbound FDR at East 20th Street, two-car crash in the left lane. That's going to make a mess back towards the UM. The downtown-bound West Side Highway, whole lot better. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and the tunnels. Citybound, the Georgia's fine. West side, still the best of it. Northbound Deegan, your Bronx winner. Lincoln, no more than a few minutes either way. Outbound Holland's fine. Inbound Skyway still a bit slow, so the Newark Bay, that's where you go. Brooklyn bound Brooklyn Bridge, still the worst of it out of lower Manhattan. Queens, southbound Van Wyck after the Long Island Expressway. Emergency pothole repair work blocks two left lanes and makes a mess from Northern Boulevard. You're on the Clearview instead. Islanders and Blackhawks at UBS tonight. They're about to drop the puck, but not everybody is going to make the opening face-off. Cross Island southbound loaded from Northern Boulevard to UBS. Northbound Cross Island extra slow from the Belt and the Southern State Parkway. Greg Rice, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
The NTSB gave an update today on their investigation into Sunday's deadly crash of an Air Canada plane into a fire truck at LaGuardia. They offered a more detailed timeline of what happened and how it could have been prevented.
The air traffic controller gave the fire truck permission to cross the runway while the plane was still in the air, about 100 feet, and 20 seconds before the crash. Then 9 seconds before, the controller started telling the fire truck to stop. One focus, says NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy, is an alert system called ASDX.
A runway safety system which allows air traffic controllers to track surface movement of aircraft and vehicles.
That system did not go off. She says the fire truck didn't have a transponder. There were two controllers on duty.
The midnight shift, as a reminder, is one that we have many times at the NTSB raised concerns about with respect to fatigue.
Still too early to tell if that was a factor here. Mac Rosenberg, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Senators are hearing it from their constituents. They want the 4-hour lines at the airport dealt with now. Republicans in the Senate now working with Democrats on a compromise to get TSA agents paid again. But the president's balking. Earlier today, a White House official said conversations are ongoing, but this deal seems to be acceptable. Then the president indicated otherwise.
President Trump said that he would not be happy with any deal that Democrats and Republicans strike on funding for the Department of Homeland Security, and he was non-committal on if he would sign any deal. The president in the Oval Office Tuesday said any deal they make, quote, I'm pretty much not happy with it. Asked if he would be comfortable with a deal that involves separating ICE funding from the DHS funding package to reopen the agency, the president deflected and said a deal was being worked on.
Well, I'm going to look at it, and we're going to take a good hard look at it. I want to support Republicans.
Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Hardliners in the White House reportedly digging in as part of their efforts to make changes in the elections ahead of the midterms. They want the SAVE Act, designed to force stringent voter ID laws nationwide, and to potentially prepare to send armed federal agents to keep polling places and election offices come November. A verdict today in New Mexico's landmark social media trial.
In violation of the state's consumer protection law, prosecutors say Meta, which owns Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, prioritize profits over safety. Attorneys for Meta say the company discloses risks and makes efforts to weed out harmful content and experiences. Jurors found there were thousands of violations, each counting separately towards a penalty of $375 million. New Mexico's case was among the first to reach trial. trial in a wave of litigation involving social media platforms and their impacts on children. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The jury's still deliberating in the other big social media trial we've been telling you about in California. 2 teenage girls shot in front of a Coney Island McDonald's. NYPD says it happened just after 4:30 this afternoon across from the subway station on the corner of Mermaid and Stillwell Avenues. The girls, ages 14 and 16, raced to the hospital with injuries that are not life-threatening. One hit in the leg, the other in the foot. No word on the shooter. Nobody in custody as the investigation continues tonight. Another arrest made in the horrific attack on a woman in Elmont. A second Brooklyn man charged in this case.
Nassau County DA Ann Donnelly says it was the victim, Nafia Ikram's ex-boyfriend, Shaquille Koch, who planned the acid attack against her. Her face now scarred for life. She's blind in one eye.
Koch thought she had been unfaithful while they were together, and he could not accept that the months-long relationship was over.
The DA says Koch's friend Terrell Campbell threw the acid in Ikram's face as Koch drove the getaway car.
And justice has come knocking for Mr. Koch.
After the arraignment, Ikram says it's a big shock. Koch pleaded not guilty. Sophia Hall, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM on Long Island.
Cops in Brooklyn treating a seemingly random attack in the subway as a possible hate crime now. A 20-year-old woman says she was approached by a man who made anti-Muslim statements before grabbing her, pushing her to the ground, and grabbing her phone. It happened just before 11 St. Patrick's Day morning at the 9th Avenue subway station. Police have released a new photo now of the suspect they're looking for, hoping someone recognizes him. Illegal schedule changes, missing paychecks, labor laws broken, allegations against some popular franchise restaurants in the city that have settled multi-million-dollar lawsuits.
What better way to tackle corruption and waste week than by having a Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme, a Baja Blast, and some Dunkin' Munchkins for lunch? Mayor Mamdani and Commissioner Sam Levine say they may be snacking, but they're talking serious cash back for workers that have been taken advantage of.
Almost $2 million back to workers, more than 800 of them across New York City.
At these Dunkin' Donuts and Taco Bell franchise, these were the rights getting violated.
The workers didn't have predictable schedules. They were forced to close the store, then open it the next day without compensation.
They're also encouraging any New Yorker that's a food worker or working in retail to speak up if they feel their employer is violating city law. Mary Lynn Buckley, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Air and drone strikes ramped up again around the Persian Gulf. Israel striking Iran again as Iranian missiles and drones rain down on Israel and Gulf states Iran has deemed an enemy. Thousands more Marines are headed to the region, and tonight comes word the U.S. is also preparing to send 1,000 more servicemen and women from an Army airborne unit. This as President Trump talks of winding down and trying to reach a deal with Iran to end the war.
A senior Iranian official says Tehran is reviewing U.S. proposals sent through a mediator, but no formal talks are underway. Pakistan is now offering to help. On Tuesday, President Trump reposted a message from Pakistan's prime minister, saying they stand ready and honored to host and facilitate meaningful talks. Trump said both sides have 15 points of agreement.
Correspondent Tina Kraus. State of Minnesota filing an unprecedented lawsuit against the Departments of Justice and Homeland Security.
Minnesota officials are suing the Trump administration, accusing agencies of withholding evidence related to 3 shootings by federal officers.
The killing of Renee Good, the shooting of Julio Sosa Solis, and the killing of Alex Preddy.
Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty says the lawsuit filed in Washington, D.C. is necessary to their investigation.
The federal government has adopted a policy of categorically withholding evidence from us related to shootings involving federal agents during Operation Metro Surge.
I'm Jennifer King.
41 degrees, clear skies, going down to 38 in Midtown. You will not wait to get where you need to go. Here's Greg Rice.
Now you're going to wait on the east side of Manhattan, southbound FDR Drive. You got a crash right at the RFK. That's going to back you up onto the Harlem River Drive from at least the 140s. And then now you got 2 left lanes out on the southbound FDR near East 20th Street because of that collision, which slows you down from the 70s. The downtown-bound West Side Highway, or even at this hour, the avenues, they're going to do better. City-bound George is fine. West Side, best of it out. Cross Bronx, the worst out of the Bronx. Lincoln and Holland, they behave. Brooklyn-bound Brooklyn Bridge, still the naughtiest out of lower Manhattan. Brooklyn Belt, bumper-to-bumper westbound from right around Rockaway Parkway all the way out towards Coney Island Avenue with a collision. Roving emergency pothole repair work in Queens. They're on the southbound Van Wyck approaching Jewel Avenue. They block 2 left lanes. You're backed up from Northern Boulevard, and you're better off on the Clearview. Islanders are underway at UBS against Chicago, but the Cross Island still loaded with people that didn't make the opening face-off. Southbound slows from right around Bayside Marina, and in Nassau, a crash on the westbound Southern State at the Seaford Oyster Bay makes a mess from the Bethpage Parkway. Greg Rice, 1010 wins at 92.3 FM.
Now the AccuWeather 4-day forecast. Meteorologist Brian Thompson.
Under a clear to partly cloudy sky tonight, we'll have a low of 38 in the city. It'll drop closer to 30 in some far northern and western suburbs. We'll have some sunshine to start tomorrow. It is going to cloud up over the course of the day, but even so, we'll end up a little warmer than today, a high 52. More clouds tomorrow night, maybe a shower in spots late, especially across the Hudson Valley in Connecticut. We'll have a low of 45. Thursday, a much warmer day with sun and clouds, a high near 70 ahead of a cold front that will bring some rain, even a thunderstorm in some spots Thursday night. Could have a little lingering rain Friday morning. And then once that front moves through, we'll still have lingering clouds, but it is going to be breezy and cooler. High 58 early. Temperatures end up in the 40s, though, by late in the day Friday. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Brian Thompson on New York's weather station. 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
41 degrees and clear. We're going down to 38 in Midtown. Layoffs at a big video gaming company.
Epic Games is cutting more than 1,000 jobs because it says people just aren't playing as much Fortnite as they used to. While the game is still one of the most popular in the world, player engagement has been slipping since last year. And the company says it's spending more money than it's bringing in. There has been a larger shift away from the battle royale genre in recent years, with platforms like Roblox, which is like a playground of millions of games, gaining in popularity.
Correspondent Stacey Lynn. Chances are you know someone who's looking for a job. Too many people these days. Chances are also good they're becoming increasingly frustrated in their search.
Less than a third of American workers think right now is a good time to find a job, and it's especially bleak for college grads. In fact, they haven't been this down on the job market since 2013. The results come as government data shows overall hiring is at its weakest level in more than a decade and holds true with what economists call the low hire, low fire job market. Businesses largely holding on to who they've got, but not opening up opportunities to those looking for work. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
New Harvard study finds the pandemic had a big impact on young children's attention spans and self-control.
The researchers gave more than 3,000 children ages 3 to 11 an executive function test, assessing their focus, memory, and cognitive flexibility, and found all those factors had declined. Harvard professor Stephanie Jones says kids were dealing with a lot.
Elevated parental stress, economic instabilities, illness. People were sick and afraid and worried about getting sick.
She says in any future pandemic, there needs to be better support for families.
Correspondent Michael Wallace. The updates you need, the moment you need them. 1010 Wins is always on.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
41 degrees, clear skies at 7:20. I'm Lane Bajardi. Here's what's happening. NTSB says a runway alarm system that could have stopped a deadly impact between a fire truck and an Air Canada jet at LaGuardia failed to sound moments before the collision. People who take the BX6 bus will soon get faster, more reliable service. Not everyone thinks this sounds like a good idea, but New York City schools will soon have AI in the classrooms. More tourists visited the city last year, but fewer came from other countries. In 1010 Wins Entertainment, a 13 going on 30 reboot is in the works at Netflix. Knicks host the Pelicans, Nets out west to play the Warriors. Islanders hosting the Blackhawks, Devils skate in Dallas. AccuWeather says clear to partly cloudy tonight, low 38 in the city, closer to 30 in some of the more distant suburbs. Wins News Time 7:21. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Greg Rice.
Well, here's trouble in Queens, westbound Long Island Expressway, just after the BQE. They are working on what appears to be a truck fire. This is on the westbound Long Island Expressway between the BQE and Van Dam Street. You got the left lane squeaking by, and that is it. I think I still see flames shooting out of the bottom of this thing. So the westbound Long Island Expressway getting worse from the BQE over to Greenpoint Avenue and Van Dam Street because of this car fire. Elsewhere in Queens, southbound Van Wyck after the LIE pothole repair work has a couple of left lane shut. The Cross Island slows south to UBS, even though the game is now well underway. East side of Manhattan, southbound side of the Harlem River Drive at the RFK, there's a crash, and then southbound FDR Drive near East 23rd Street. We're also dealing with a collision. You got the left lane still blocked. Southbound west side's better. Cross Bronx, worst of it, getting you to the outbound George Washington Bridge. We may have a crash here on the outbound upper level under the apartments. The west side, the best of it out. Citybound George is fine. Lincoln and Holland in pretty good shape. Greg Rice, 1010 wins at 92.3 FM.
Learning more today about the crash at LaGuardia involving an Air Canada jet and fire truck.
National Transportation Safety Board Chair Jennifer Homendy says a runway warning system failed to sound an alarm moments before the collision.
Truck 1, however, did not have a transponder.
And she said investigators don't know yet whether the two people in the fire truck heard the control tower's last-second warning to stop. And investigators want to know more about the role of controllers.
It is not clear who was conducting the duties of the ground.